Illinois faces some big challenges. Today, you're about to hear a truly honest analysis of the problems we face. Equally important, you'll also hear an in-depth discussion of some practical solutions. This is your radio source for stories, the insight, and the answers you won't hear anywhere else, not in the media, and not coming from Springfield. You're listening to Illinois Rising, presented by the Illinois Opportunity Project. Now, here's your host, AM 560's Dan Proft.
Dan Proft back with Pat Hughes on this edition of Illinois Rising, and we're pleased to have in studio as our guest noted filmmaker, documentarian Eli Steele, who's the son of the great academic, thinker, author Shelby Steele. He is an accomplished filmmaker in his own right, and he's got a film that's creating a lot of buzz. It's making the rounds, and this week in Chicago with screenings that you can make yourself available for to see his film, How Jack Became Black, Monday, March 5th at New Trier's Cornog Auditorium in Northfield, 7 p.m., doors open. Tickets are available at eventbrite.com. You can show up and buy tickets there. It's open to the public. And then Tuesday, March 6th at the Pickwick Theater in Park Ridge, again, eventbrite.com, How Jack Became Black. You can get all of the details of all of the screening times while Eli is in town screening and discussing his film at howjackbecameblack.com. Eli, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much for having me.
So tell us the genesis of the film. What prompted you to make this film and the basis of the title, How Jack Became Black?
It was a very simple, ordinary situation that all parents go through in America. And I was just trying to enroll my kid in the public elementary school in Los Angeles. And on the form is that primary race. You only should pick one. And the problem is that my kid, Jack, is the third multiracial generation in my family. Black, Jewish, Hispanic, white, Native American.
And they didn't have a box for that.
No, they did not. No. And so how do you... And he knows all the stories behind all these races, so how do you pick one? But what also really, I think, what really threw me was not only the label primary race, which means primary as in which race is the most primary, which race is the most important. Is your mother more important than your father or
right.
what you did? And also the back to the school that he could not come in and begin his education unless they checked the box. And for me, that was huge because you making the race box more important than his own education, and that's a violation of the California Constitution, which guaranteed a free public education to our kids.
So as you disputed the requirement to check the box and you engaged administrators at the public school district, how did that go? I assume this was a conversation most of them had never had with anyone before.
Absolutely. And the interesting thing was, I mean, I show it in my documentary, but if you actually go back and look at all the raw footage of the 5 schools they went to with undercover camera, you can understand race very clearly. Nobody knows anything. Nobody knows why the boxes are there. Nobody knows what the correct answer is. So it just becomes so aware how uneducated. Well, I mean, race is just reason. It's only what the power states it is. And so these people had no idea what to do. And so then I knew that I had to go to the power to be, which was the Los Angeles School District. The second largest.
Nobody had ever challenged the premise. They just start from the premise that's received wisdom and it should not be challenged.
Yes, and I Googled it, of course, and I think there was only one parent, and his comment was, primary race, really? And that's all I found online, so I guess nobody really challenged the people I did. And even, as with all people who have the power, they refuse to answer me. I mean, I ran into I confronted the entire district, the building is 29 floors, and not one person can come down and explain the box. All the people that I contacted through email, they go, oh yeah, I'd love to talk to you, and then they cancel the interview. So you have to find out what happens in the documentary, but
Sure, yes, of course. Don't give it all
well,
away.
yeah,
That,
yeah.
that was the preview. That's the preview.
That's
that
the
I-
preview. But of course, it opened up the larger question: why in America are we doing that? Why is race so important? And so I look into other parts of America, like the George Zimmerman trial, the white Hispanic, Bill de Blasio, the whole election with his multiracial son, just to really understand how fixated on race we become and how much we allow it to influence the decisions that we make.
Why do you think that race is such a prominent part of this circumstance or our politics? I feel like it might be intentional that the people that want to use identity politics is to control power, to accede power, to continue to pit us against each other so that they can leverage sort of those things for their own benefit. What's your thought?
Exactly. I mean, race itself means nothing. It's just the powers behind it that give you the powers. If you really should use race, if you have a corporation, whatever it is, you can say the black boss means that, the white boss means that. So I could literally start my own private company and hire people based on that. But it's because I have the power to do so. But race is just it's a tool that we have. We're under the illusion that will lead us to racial justice. And we're not aware that we're actually using the very same tool that white supremacy did. And white supremacy, this is nothing new. White supremacy assigns value to these race bosses, and they defined American for centuries based on that.
Do you think it's going to be harder for the people who are trying to advantage themselves by pitting us all against each other on race? Do you think it's going to be harder for them to do that as more people like you, and then of course like your son, as the generations happen and people are from all sorts of different backgrounds, and will they lose some of the power when you have 5 or 6 or 7 different origin backgrounds from who you are?
I should explain them a little bit more. I call identity politics the racial order. And the reason why is that because it behaves the same way as white supremacy. It does not have the brutality or anything like that, but it behaves as a racial order. If you look at white supremacy, people, the civil rights movement, they got more brutal and brutal and brutal and brutal until it fell apart. If you look in identity politics, in 2010, nobody heard of white supremacy. I mean, it was not of course they heard of it, but it was not mainstream. White privilege wasn't. All of a sudden, in the last 5 years, you've had this huge influx, this doubling down on identity politics. And the question is why? Why are you doubling down now? And I think that has to do with the rising multiracial population. That has to do with people making the argument that we were living in a post-racial America after Obama was elected. And that's the greatest threat to identity politics. So I think it's no mistake that during Obama's presidency, identity politics is doubled down and to the point where they went to actual literal skin color. I mean, they're looking at people. Now I'm a white person. So that's what happens to me at the white privilege conference. They say your background does not matter. Your skin is white. Therefore, you are a white person.
Yeah, and the other thing that you've suggested is the way we talk about public policy challenges is so tinged with race, the power and the influence that identity politics has had in the way we converse about important public policy issues. So, for example, you raised the issue of when we talk about failing schools in the urban center, we talk about the percentage of kids not at grade level. But we don't say percentage of kids, we say percentage of black kids or Latino kids versus white kids.
Yeah.
And why is that a problem?
Because I think when you say that, you are we're so programmed by identity politics that we don't know it. If you just think about how people under white supremacy were programmed, well, today the racial order of identity politics has programmed up to devalue in these things. So if you are a liberal and you hear black, it's a trigger training thing for you. victimization, oppression, institutional racism. If you are conservative, it may trigger things for you. You may think, oh, okay, no fathers in the home and stuff like that. What happens, though, is we forget that we are actually looking at Americans. These kids are Americans. I mean, they're part of this is American, and we're not, the problem is a human problem in most cases. If it's school, well, what's the problem? Is it teacher? Is it the material? What is that? And so race, when we say black, we think about all the stereotypes. If we remove black and say these kids are having problems, then we say, well, what's the problem? Is this teacher incompetent? We have to find the answer because it's an outrage that this is happening. This is our future.
What is part of the solution? Because I think anything that's suggested, if you have an intellectual conversation about, like you've done in your documentary about this subject, people who have this power and want to split us up on identity, they're going to call us racist. They're going to call us, right?
Yeah, and that's not. I mean, that's not a solution. I mean, this is usually the racial power. I mean, my dad talks about that. That usually the power of white guilt, where Americans are so afraid of being called a racist that that the people who practice identity politics know that that's their weapon. That they can just say, you don't know anything about what we're talking about. You are white privilege. You are, and they accuse the person of white guilt, and that silences them and allows them to implement the racial equity program, the intersectionality, and that's a huge detriment because I'll tell you a quick story. After Ferguson happened, after Baltimore happened, I was talking with a friend of mine, and she was in Rock, and she's sort of like involved in the community in nonprofit. Black Lives Matter tries to move into that community to, I guess, stir things up, activate, and make the kids into activists. The community organizers called the police, who were mentoring a lot of these kids, to try to help them get these people out because they realized that that the youth in those communities have enough problems. They need to be focusing on getting the best education possible and not becoming an activist. That's not going to help them. And so that's really telling when the people in the community saw Black Lives Matter, and these are black people, saw what they were bringing into the community, and said, we don't want that in here. These kids are impoverished, violent, they need education.
So how do you think this plays out as, and your film makes this point, as America becomes more and more multiracial with people of different races getting together and having families? Is that going to be a bulwark against identity politics where you have multiracial people, like your son Jack, who doesn't fit in a box and doesn't want to fit in a box, that will push against identity politics? Or are they going to turn around and, frankly, provide reinforcements for identity politics to further inculcate it?
No, I mean, there's a huge move in identity politics to bring the multiracial under the fold. And what we're doing is actually going to lead to justice. And racial justice, racial equity, we need to have proportional representation, literally organize people by color. Which for me is like, wow, okay, I mean, the way you do that, if you want, is to empower the individual. I mean, that's the best way to uplift. And so I would not say that the multiracial are the cure, because I think all Americans play a role in that. But if you go through the multiracial experience, as you see in the documentary, you will go through a process of where you overcome, prejudice, where you overcome things. It could be just simple as bridging two religions together, or how you have to learn how to live with differences from a different culture, and that makes you a better person. So multiracial families tend to have that awareness in a way, but that doesn't mean that other Americans can do that. But they go through that little baptism by fire in a way, and I think that will only help But identity politics is this very, very dominant force, and it holds this great promise of the promised land. And a lot of people fall under that sway.
So Sandra Day O'Connor, in her commentary and an opinion on a admissions case, University of Michigan, remember Grutter v. Bollinger, said, yeah, maybe 15, 20 years we won't need affirmative action anymore, but we still do today. And that opinion, I think, was 2003. She may have been substantively right. We won't need it, but procedurally wrong. We're still going to have it because identity politics has picked up that mantle of distributing, conferring benefits based on race, and you see it as the dominant ideology in places like college campuses.
Yes. But at the same time, she was not aware that she should have had that information that I think it's in the documentary, but it was something like in the 70s, it was something like 50% of the blacks that were receiving affirmative action were from impoverished family. Now it's like 8%. So who will you help you?
Right.
And affirmative action was originally to uplift those
economically disadvantaged.
Exactly. So she kind of point out the absurdity of identity politics. I think it was Cornell just a couple of months ago. The Black Student Union at Cornell led a protest because they wanted affirmative action only for black people, not for Africans. So then identity politics intervened. They said, no, it's all about color. So it doesn't matter that these Africans are not from the black.
They don't have white privilege.
No, I mean the legacy of slavery.
Yeah, right.
So it doesn't matter. It's black. We want black. And so these African American Cornell students had to be educated.
What do you think? There's any promise in the left cannibalizing itself?
Oh, absolutely.
In other words, you're going to have a lot of these champagne socialists and leftists that turn out to be victims of identity, the very identity politics they're supporting.
Yes, and I mean, we're not. That's the big crime about affirmative action. Is two things. First, affirmative action means racial preference. It's not helping those it's intended to help. Two, what the people behind white privilege is my biggest argument against white privilege. If you really want to talk about white privilege, then let's talk about the people, the whites that have benefited. And if you think about the 80s, the 70s, those were university presidents who was just enrolling black and not caring about the collateral damage. Those are the ultimate beneficiaries of white privilege because they didn't suffer the consequences or the dropout. My sister went to Harvard, and 3 minorities in her circle dropped out. So you can imagine, and these were very poor people, you can imagine the celebration. You got into Harvard. They're the pride of the community. And then 2 years later, you drop out.
Well, we need to make it where you got into Hillsdale. You're the pride of the community, not Harvard. But anyway, the film, by the way, just to close the loop on the film without giving too much away, you have Jack, your son, he's 4th grade, and you also have a daughter in the school system in 2nd grade.
Yes.
All right. The film is How Jack Became Black. Go to howjackbecameblack.com to get details about the screenings that are in Chicago, and there'll be a discussion with Eli Steele at both, actually at the one in Park Ridge on Tuesday night, March 6th. You're going to have Charles Thomas from ABC7 also facilitate, formerly of ABC7 News, now a talk show host himself on VON, facilitate that discussion. So Monday, March 5th at New Trier, Tuesday, March 6th at the Pickwick Theater in Park Ridge. Get all the details at howjackbecameblack.com. Eli Steele, thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much for having me.
Good luck with the film.
Thank you.